Good morning. Here we are gathered again in this sacred space where Spirit meets us, uplifts us, and calls us higher. This month we've been exploring the theme of transcendent purposes. Each week has been a step in building this vision. The first week, Reverend Debbie asked, "What's the point anyway?" She invited us to ask and reminded us that self-realization is the journey. Our worth isn't based on our achievements or society's yardsticks, but simply we exist because we are divine expressions of Spirit. Then Reverend Joanne talked about the purpose that surpasses all, showing us that when we live aligned with transcendent purpose, life becomes meaningful beyond measure. We tapped into the creative process and the power of affirmations to expand awareness. And then last week, Reverend Debbie lifted us with elevation of awareness. She compared the spiritual journey to an elevator ride. Through ups and downs and pauses, we grow in our understanding of the truth. And she reminded us to choose good action, prayer, and forgiveness along the way. And today we close the month with a message I've called Mission Possible, the Science of Hope. Now you might smile at that title because it plays with the famous phrase, Mission Impossible. But there's one truth. With Spirit, transcendent purpose, there is no impossible mission. The power of hope, our lives are fueled, our paths are open, and that once looked impossible becomes possible. When we hear the word hope, some people think of it as a weak word, almost like a resort. Well, all we have left is hope now. But in Science of Mind, hope is not weak. Hope is not passive. Hope is an active, creative power that fuels our transcendent purpose. Here's a new thought definition of hope. It's the practice expectancy of good, an active, disciplined alignment of thought, feeling, and action with divine principle. Hope is not passive wishes. It is conscious participation with the creative process. Trusting the infinite intelligence provides both power, which is agency, and the pathways to bring forth right outcomes. Now, the psychologist C.R. Snyder, who studied hope for decades, gives us a clear model. He said that hope has two essential components, agency and pathways. Agency is the motivation, the drive, and the inner conviction that says, I can do this, I can make progress. Pathways are the routes we find, the creativity, the flexibility to discover new ways when old ways close down. Put them together and you don't just have a nice feeling of wishing, you have a living, dynamic force that carries you forward. Ernest Holden's told us, expectancy, and remember that word, speeds progress. Therefore, live in a continued state of expectancy. Expect to meet new and wonderful experiences. That's hope. It's a state of expectancy, an openness to Spirit's good moving through us right now. Now notice what Holmes is saying. He doesn't say wish. He doesn't say cross your fingers. He says expect. Expectancy is active. Expectancy changes how you walk into a room. It changes how you pray. It changes how you meet your challenges. When we live in expectancy, we're not passively waiting. We are actively co-creating. Here's a contrast to help land it. Optimism says, I hope it works, and somehow. But hope, real hope says, I expect good because I am aligned with the creative process. Spirit and I are in partnership. Optimism is a mood. Hope is a spiritual practice. Rumi, the great mystic poet, wrote, never lose heart, my life, or my heart. Never lose hope, my heart. Try that again. Never lose hope, my heart. Miracles dwell in the invisible. That's exactly it. Hope is not blind. It's visionary. Hope looks beyond the visible, beyond the problem in front of us, and trusts in the invisible source that always holds the solution. Nelson Mandela didn't survive 27 years in prison by optimism. He had hope, the active kind. He believed that he had agency to keep going, to grow even in confinement. He trusted the new pathways would emerge for his people. That's the science of hope in action. The science of hope tells us that people who live with higher levels of hope are more resilient, solve problems better, and even make better physical health decisions. That's not just spiritual talk, that's research. But here's what where science of mind takes it deeper. Hope isn't just good psychology, it's good spirituality. It's the expectancy of Spirit's infinite good showing up as our life. So as we step into this message, let's reframe hope. Hope is not the last thing we cling to when nothing else works. Hope is the first step we take, the energy that fuels our transcendent purpose. It's what makes our mission not impossible, but possible. We've all heard people say, well, I'm optimistic, things will work out. And optimism is fine, it's pleasant, it's encouraging, but in science of mind, optimism and hope are not the same. Optimism is a mood, hope is a power. Optimism says, I think it'll be okay. Hope says, I know Spirit and I are co-creating something greater than I can see right now. Think about the difference. Optimism can fade when facts look grim. If you're only optimistic, a doctor's report, a financial downturn, or a broken relationship can drain it away. But hope is anchored deeper. Hope is expectancy. Hope is a spiritual practice. Hope says, regardless of appearances, I stand in the truth that Spirit is present and good is possible. Holmes again makes it clear. A state of expectancy, again there's that word, is a great asset. Uncertainty will never get the desired results. If optimism is uncertain, hope is expectant. Hope knows. Optimism relishes on what eyes can see. Hope trusts the invisible source. Optimism looks at the weather and says, maybe it'll rain tomorrow, maybe it'll be sunny tomorrow. But hope looks at the clouds and says, if it rains, I know the sun is shining behind it. So let's bring Shakespeare into this for just a moment. In Richard III, he says, true hope is swift and flies with swallows' wings. Isn't that beautiful? Hope doesn't just plod along, dragging its feet, waiting to see what happened. Hope takes flight. Hope is swift. When you align with hope, you feel lighter, you feel lifted by something greater than your own strength. And Shakespeare again, in Two Gentlemen of Verona, he says, hope is a lover's staff, and hence with that, and manage it against despairing thoughts. In other words, hope is what you lean on when despair tries to pull you down. Hope is not a flimsy crutch. It is a strong staff. It holds you upright and steadies your steps. And now I know some of you may be thinking, well, I tried hope before, and it didn't always work out. Well, here's the key. Hope is not a guarantee of specific outcome. Hoping is a guarantee of movement, of possibility, of divine partnership. Optimism may set you up for disappointment because it clings to a certain picture. Well, maybe next time, you think, but instead, choose to live by hope. The expectancy that Spirit has another pathway. There was someone that applied for a job, and he believed it was a perfect fit for them. They had the qualifications, the interview went smoothly, and they were certain it was theirs. When the offer didn't come through, disappointment hit hard. In hindsight, the closed door was simply Spirit's way of making room for something greater. That's the difference between optimism and hope. Optimism shrugs its shoulders. Hope declares, Spirit is at work, even when I cannot yet see it. And in the experience, in that experience, the way forward was revealed. Hope said, I don't know, but I know God is working on it, and I'll take the steps that are mine to take. That's why hope is not passive. Hope doesn't sit on the crutches and wait. Hope gets up, hope moves on, and hope acts. Dennis Merritt Jones reminds us, if you catch yourself telling a story that serves to make you small, stop and take a breath. That's how you keep hope alive. Optimism might sugarcoat the story, but hope rewards the story. Hope brings Spirit back into the narrative. So I invite you to check in with yourself right now. Where are you in life living in optimism when Spirit is calling you to live in hope? Is there a place where you've been saying, I hope it works out, but deep down you haven't been practicing expectancy? Where could you shift from crossing your fingers to opening your mind and heart and actions in co-creation with Spirit? So right now, just take a breath with me. Place your hand on your heart if you'd like to and say silently to yourself, I am more than optimistic. I live in hope. I expect good because I am aligned with Spirit. You know, optimism is nice. It's a fair weather companion. But hope, true hope, is a staff you can lean on and wings that can carry you. Expectancy that keeps you moving, even when the outcome is not yet visible. And that's why we can declare with confidence, mission possible. When we talk about the science of hope, remember Snyder's formula. Hope equals agency and pathways. And without these two, hope collapses into wishing. With them, hope becomes a spiritual power that fuels our transcendent purpose. You know, agency is about believing you can. It's that inner conviction, that fire that says, I'm not powerless, I'm a co-creator with the divine. You know, Dennis Merritt Jones says, we were born to be free. There's a place within us that is courageous beyond our understanding. You know, that courage is agency. It's what makes you take the first step, even when the road is dark. Holmes would say that agency is our conscious use of the creative process. Thought is creative. We don't just float through life. We direct the flow of thought, and therefore the flow of experience. When I know that my thought, backed by divine mind, has power, I walk with agency. It is choosing what you lean on. Do I lean on despair, or do I lean on hope? Agency is picking up the staff of hope and walking with it, step by step. Now, agency alone isn't enough. If you believe you can, but you can't see the path forward, discouragement sets in. That's where the second piece comes in, pathways. Pathways are the ways Spirit makes. They are infinite creativity of the universe, opening doors that we didn't know existed. Pathways are the reroutes, the detours, the sudden ideas, or the unexpected connections. Pathways are the ways Spirit makes. They are the infinite creativity of the universe. They have been around forever. And you know, I love the metaphor of a GPS. You're driving towards your destination, and suddenly the road is closed, and there's a traffic backup. Optimism shrugs, and maybe turns around, maybe gives up. Hope, grounded in the pathways, says rerouting. Spirit is always rerouting us. There's always another path. Remember that when you're driving the next time and your GPS takes you around a traffic jam. You know, Rumi captures this in a single line. Where there is ruin, there is hope for a treasure. What looks like a dead end can actually be the second seed of your next miracle. What looks like collapse can be the ground for a new beginning. Agency says, pathway, I can. Pathway says, here's how. Agency keeps us motivated. Pathway keeps us creative and flexible. And when the two come together, it's unstoppable. Psychology tells us people with high hopes don't get stuck easily. If one door closes, they look for another. If one solution doesn't work, they look for something else. The pathways which keep them trying, but agency, it's the belief that matters. They can, and Spirit will work through them. In New Thought terms, agency is the conscious direction of thought, and pathways are the infinite mind, revealing infinite possibilities. The combination is what makes mission possible. So let's try something together. Take a moment and think about a challenge in your life right now. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's physical. Now just ask yourself, agency, do I believe I can grow through this? Do I believe Spirit and I can co-create something together? Pathways, can I open my mind to new ways, unexpected solutions, creative possibilities, even the ones I haven't thought of yet? Now take a breath. Feel that shift? That's the science of hope at work through you. Agency and pathways are not abstract ideas. They are lived spiritual practices. Every time we affirm our good, we strengthen agency. Every time we stay open to Spirit's creativity, we expand pathways. So the next time you feel stuck, remember that you have a staff to lean on, wings to carry you, and a GPS that never runs out of routes. Hope is not a flimsy wish. Hope is an agency plus pathways powered by Spirit. Friends, this is not mission impossible. With agent and pathways alive in us, hope makes everything mission possible. We've seen that hope is more than wishing. It's agency plus pathways. It's active and creative spiritual power. But here's the good news. Hope is not something you just have or don't have. It is something you can cultivate. In Science of Mind, we say that thought is creative. So we can train our minds to live in hope. We can build a hopeful consciousness that a way a musician practices their scales or an athlete trains their muscles. So there's 5 practices that help us just do that. And none of these are going to be new to you. The first one is spiritual mind treatment. Treatment is not our begging or pleading. It is aligning our consciousness with the divine truth. It's declaring that what we declare is already true in the mind of God. When I treat, I anchor myself in expectancy. There's that word again. Just don't hope things will get better. I know that Spirit is already at work. I know that builds hope. It strengthens agency. Remember, Ernest Holmes said, a state of expectancy is a great asset. Treatment is the practice of expectancy. Every time we treat, we're training our mind to expect good. The second practice is affirmations. These are short, powerful statements we repeat to condition our mind. Optimism says, I hope things go my way. Affirmations say, I live in a universe of abundance, and I am open to infinite good. Think about the power of repeating that daily. You're carving neural pathways of hope. You're building mind equivalents that Spirit can work with. Third practice is visualization. When you visualize, you create a vivid picture of your desired outcome. You imagine it with detail, with feeling, and with gratitude. Science tells us that visualization activates the same brain pathways as the actual experience. Spirit tells us that visualization sets the law of mind into motion. Now, mindfulness is the fourth practice. It keeps us present, and when we're present, we can still hear the still small voice. Rumi reminds us, never lose hope, my heart. Miracles dwell in the invisible, as we said before. How do we perceive these miracles? By slowing down, by becoming aware, by listening deeply. Mindfulness might be a 5-minute meditation. It might be pausing before reacting. It might be taking a conscious breath before responding to an email. Every moment of mindfulness recenters us in hope. It reminds us that Spirit is here now, unfolding infinite good for us. And the last one we talk about is self-compassion. Hope can wither if we're too harsh on ourselves. But when we treat ourselves kindly, especially in failure, hope grows. That's self-compassion in action. Instead of berating yourself for not being good enough, you breathe, you reset. You remember you are a divine expression of Spirit, worthy of good. Self-compassion transforms setbacks into stepping stones. It keeps hope alive when things don't go as planned. So these 5 practices are not just ideas. They're tools. They're ways of cultivating hope through spiritual discipline. So again, hope is not something we wait for. Hope is something we practice. And when we practice hope, we're not just uplifting ourselves, we're uplifting our community and our world. When one person lives in hope, it's inspiring. When a community lives in hope, it's contagious. And when humanity lives in hope, it becomes transformation. So let's choose today to cultivate a hope mindset through prayer, through affirmations, through visualizations, through mindfulness, and through compassion. Because hope makes our transcendent purpose, mission, possible. So we've journeyed this morning through the science of hope. We've seen that hope is not weak, not wishing, but active expectancy. We've learned that hope is built of agency, the inner I can and the pathways, the infinite ways that Spirit provides. And we practice how to cultivate hope through treatment, affirmation, visualization, mindfulness, and self-compassion. So now the question is, what do you do with it? Well, this is not just Mission Possible for a clever title. It's your mission. Hope is your assignment, and here is your call. This week, pick one of these hope practices to commit to it daily. Maybe it's affirming that I live in active hope, the practice expectancy of good. Maybe it's 2 minutes of visualization before bed. Maybe it's catching yourself when you tell a limiting story and choose self-compassion instead. But don't try to do all of them at once. Just pick one, because hope grows like a seed. When you water one seed continuously and faithfully, it multiplies. You know you're not doing it alone. We are a community. Together we magnify hope. Together we embody transcendent purpose. Together we change our thinking and change our lives. The ripple spreads into a world that works for everyone. Because in this community we don't say mission impossible. We declare that faith and expectancy make it mission possible. So let's close by anchoring this in prayer. Sit back, take a deep breath. I invite you to close your eyes if you choose to. And we remember that there is one life, one power, one presence, one infinite mind. It is the source and substance of all that is good. It is the creative, loving intelligence that moves through everything and everyone without exception. And I know that this life is my life now. This power is my power. This presence is my presence. This infinite mind is my mind. Each one of us is a divine expression of spirit, living in perfect connection with the source of all good. From this awareness, I speak my word for hope, not for the faint hope of wishing, but for the strong hope of expectancy. I declare that each one here lives in active hope, in the expectancy of good, in the certainty that Spirit provides both power and pathways to fulfill every transcendent purpose. I affirm that agency is alive in each person here, the deep courage, the inner conviction, the faith that says, yes, I can. And Spirit and I are co-creating now. And I affirm that the pathways are unfolding, doors opening, ideas sparking, synchronicities aligning, creative solutions appearing just when they are needed. Spirit reroutes, Spirit reveals, Spirit provides infinite ways. I see this community as a beacon of hope, radiating expectancy, resilience, and possibility into the world. I see every individual here carrying the staff of hope, walking in confidence, lifting others, and inspiring all they meet. I give thanks for this truth. I give thanks for the science of hope. I give thanks that the mission possible is not just a theme for today, but a reality for our lives. And so, with joy and certainty, I release this word into the law of mind, knowing that it is already done. And so it is. Thank you.